let us know. All right, that's it for announcements tonight. We are going to be doing a bit of a catch-up study. We're turning in our Bibles to Numbers chapter 1. I know this isn't a book that's studied often, but it's actually the book I'm teaching through with the middle schoolers right now on Sundays. We did Exodus. For some weird reason, we skipped Leviticus. I'm not sure why. And now we're going through Numbers. So I thought I'd catch you guys up. The last 3 studies we did were all pretty short with the middle schoolers, and so I'm going to compress all 3 studies into tonight. We're going to do chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Numbers. Try and get almost all the numbers out of the way in Numbers. I don't know if you guys have ever studied Numbers. Numbers is an interesting book. It's in those first 5 books of the Bible. And as you start going through them, you move from the highly narrative book of Genesis, the fairly narrative book of Exodus, into Leviticus, where you can find a narrative, but it's so little you can sum it up in one paragraph in the book of Numbers. There's very little narrative in Leviticus. And so a lot of people, they're reading through their Bibles, they get to Leviticus, and they kind of, they hit some sort of blockade and they quit. So few people ever make it to Numbers. And if you skip Leviticus, you're like, I'm just not reading about all the pustules. That's not something I want to read. And you get to Numbers, then you're greeted with chapter 1. Chapter 1 is chock full of numbers, and this is where the book gets its name. Most of the books in the Pentateuch have their name based on what's in chapter 1, not necessarily a summary of what the book's about. So Numbers, as a book, is about the journey through those 40 years of wandering. It's about what happens when you disobey God. Even though He's been there for you, even though He's given you clear guidelines, what are the ramifications? And then, my favorite part, what is God's heart, even as He has to discipline the kids that He loves? What is God's heart? So that's the book of Numbers. But chapter 1, it's Numbers. So we're going to read through pretty quick most of chapter 1, because what it's really going to give us is this, a big fat spreadsheet. And if you've got something like the NLT, I kid you not, they've done this. In the NLT, there's actually columns and rows in the Bible. So this is a little expanded. I put some more in than the NLT did, but we're just going to read through it, New King James Version, and we'll get towards the latter half of chapter 1. We'll start going a little slower, looking at more things. And most of what I want to call out about these first few verses is already up on screen. It's just the interrelations between these tribes, why they're in the order they're in, what is the significance of all this. So let's jump in. Numbers chapter 1, verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of meeting, on the first day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the children of Israel, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male individually from 20 years old and above, all who are able to go to war in Israel. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man from every tribe, each one the head of his father's house. These are the names of the men who shall stand with you. From Reuben, Elizur, the son of Shadur. From Simeon, Shalumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. From Issachar, Nathanael, the son of Zuar. From Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph, from Ephraim, Elishama, the son of Ammihud. From Manasseh, Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. From Benjamin, Abidan, the son of Gideoni. From Dan, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. From Asher, Pagiel, the son of Ochran. From Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Deuel. From Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Enon. These were chosen from the congregation, leaders of their fathers' tribes, heads of their divisions in Israel. It's really fun to teach through this with the middle schoolers because you can really pour a lot of extra salt onto those pronunciations. They dig it. In this little section, though, we have God asking for something that routinely in the Old Testament we see the Israelites being reminded not to do. And He says, do it. He says, take a census. And when you go through latter portions where there's kings and there's leaders, God tells them, sometimes specifically or sometimes kind of after the fact, you shouldn't have done that. Don't take a census. Don't do it. And the context of a census back then, and I think you could still see it today, is that by declaring a census shall be taken, and by holding the results of the census, you are in fact declaring ownership of what it is you've counted. And so God tells the kings, don't take a census, because then you're circumventing me. You're putting your faith in your armies, you're putting your faith in your military might, and you're going around me. And it's not your army anyways. That's God. He says, it's my army, and if I want to count, I will. So this time he says, do count. But there's a point to it. It's not going to come for a while, but there is a point to it. He's not just counting to declare ownership, although that is part of it. So he has them count. He lines them up. He's got all these leaders, one from each tribe, and now they're going to go through and start doing the count. And here's the results of the census. Chapter 1, verse 17. Then Moses and Aaron took these men who had been mentioned by name, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they recited their ancestry by families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and above, each one individually. As the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. Now the children of Reuben, Israel's oldest son, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, every male individually from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Reuben were 46,500. From the children of Simeon, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, of those who were numbered according to the number of names, every male individually from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Simeon were 59,300. From the children of Gad, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Gad were 45,650. If you're starting to tune out, I don't blame you. But understand that what they are doing here is highly important to them, as their system of trade, their system of commerce, everything they're looking forward to that doesn't exist yet, right? They're wanderers in a desert. It all hinges on, I know who my dad is, and I know who his dad is, and I know who his dad is. So we're repeating a few things. It took longer for them, by far. But the point was, you got the family farm. You got the hillside overlooking the sea. You got something that was kind of free in the sense that you didn't earn it in a direct way. But in the same way, it was a blessing from God. And all you had to do was know how you were related to Jacob. That's it. So for them, this was really important. If you can imagine, filling out your taxes is really arduous, and yet you really want that return, so it kind of gets to be worth it. That's it for them, except this is lifelong. Do it once, and you get it for your whole life. Again, that's where they're at right now. I did spoil that they're going to be stuck in the desert for 40 years, right? So not them, but the next generation of them. So it's still important because you still have to know whose dad was whose. Then we get into verse 26. From the children of Judah, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Judah were 74,600. From the children of Issachar, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Issachar were 54,400. From the children of Zebulun, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Zebulun were 57,400. From the sons of Joseph, the children of Ephraim, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Ephraim were 40,500. From the children of Manasseh, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Manasseh were 32,200. From the children of Benjamin, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Benjamin were 35,400. From From the children of Dan, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Dan were 62,700. You can kind of imagine like a Father Abraham song going to this, right? Is that just me? You get a little bit of a bouncing going on, a rhythm with all these words that keep repeating. It's like a chorus. You're enjoying it like a chorus, right? Okay, I'm just checking. Verse 40, from the children of Asher, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Asher, were 41,500. From the children of Naphtali, their genealogies by their families, by their father's house, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war, those who were numbered of the tribe of Naphtali were 53,400. These are the ones who were numbered, whom Moses and Aaron numbered, with the leaders of Israel, 12 men, each one representing his father's house. So, all who were numbered of the children of Israel by their father's houses, from 20 years old and above, all who were able to go to war in Israel, all who were numbered, were 603,550. But the Levites were not numbered among them by their father's tribe. For the Lord had spoken to Moses, saying, only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, nor take a census of them among the children of Israel. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, over all its furnishings, and over all the things that belong to it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings. They shall attend to it and camp around the tabernacle. And when the tabernacle is to go forward, the Levites shall take it down. When the tabernacle is to be set up, the Levites shall set it up. The outsider who comes near shall be put to death. The children of Israel shall pitch their tents, everyone by his own camp, everyone by his own standard, according to their armies. But the Levites shall camp around the tabernacle of the testimony, that there may be no wrath on the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. Thus the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so they did. So this last part here really breaks the mold. Instead of saying, how many are you? You're part of my army. You fight for me. To the Levites, he says, I'm not numbering you, and you're not part of the army, but you have a job. The job is not symbolic, it's very literal. It says to carry the tabernacle. As you go through page after page, you will not find a verse about the cart that things are put on. It's not there. Every single time they take down the tabernacle, they're told by the priests, you there, you're a Levite, right? Yes, sir. What family are you from? Oh, I'm a Gershonite. Okay, you get to take that tent peg. Cool, I got a tent peg. All right, now walk, however far we're walking today, and give it back to me when we get there. Okay, that's my job? Mm-hmm. Next guy's standing there, he's like, what are you? Oh, I'm a Murrayite. Okay, well, you get to carry this 8-foot tall pole covered in gold in the hot sun in the desert. Oh, okay. And he gets to carry that. And that's how it went. Sheets and ropes and pegs and slats and posts and bases. Almost all of them were covered in gold or silver, which if you haven't worked with before are very good heat conductors. In the desert, sure, it was lots of fun. But this is their literal job from God. Now, I don't know if you've ever had that entry-level position before. Has anyone ever had the entry-level position? You know what I'm talking about? Where like minimum wage is something you negotiate up to. And sometimes you get there and you have like grand, lofty ideas because you know what the business does. You know what the output is. But then when you arrive and you realize, oh, I'm below the bottom rung. I exist to move the old bottom rung up. That's why I'm here. And your job is usually to hold the thing while I hit it with something big. Or to bring me the thing. Where is it? It's up that hill. You kind of see the truck there? Yeah, that. Go get that. That's usually the job. It's the entry-level position. Well, God's going to lay out a whole structure here in a bit. This was really just a summary of their jobs. But the idea is that the job is going to get done, and it's a holy job. You're actually carrying, piece by piece, God's tent. It's not just any tent. I mean, it might just be a tent peg when you look at it, but then you realize, wait, this is holding up the wall that keeps people from getting too close and then rapidly dying. So actually, that's like a really important tent peg. This is going to keep people alive kind of tent peg. That's important. Same with the rope, same with the sheets, same with the post, same with the base. They're all there for the same thing. The few people got to carry the special furniture, and the special furniture had a different special purpose. It wasn't to keep people out. It was the way in. It was how you were able to approach God. So they're both very important. Don't approach willy-nilly, but you do get to approach. Both very, very important. Drop on down to chapter 2. Let's get started on how they camp. God has a specific design in mind for how they're going to camp. We did mention briefly, and we'll come back to it later, but the Levites are camped around the tabernacle itself. That's their spot to camp. And then he's going to lay out everybody else's spot to camp. Chapter 2, verse 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, every one of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, beside the emblems of his father's house. They shall camp some distance from the tabernacle of meeting. That's safe. That's a good idea. Verse 3, on the east side, toward the rising of the sun, those of the standard of the forces with Judah shall camp according to their armies. And Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, shall be the leader of the children of Judah. And his army was numbered at 74,600. And now I think you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, I remember that number. Didn't we read that number in just the very last chapter? Yes, we did. It's the same exact number. And that's because it's the book of Numbers. If you make it through chapter 1, you're rewarded with the same numbers in chapter 2. But there's more to the story. And I put it up here in graphic detail for you so that it kind of becomes more. So if you were already tuning out in chapter 1, stare at the screen. If you were happily reading along with me, let's read. Where did I stop? Verse 5. Those who camp next to him shall be the tribe of Issachar, and Nathanael, the son of Zuar, shall be the leader of the children of Issachar. And his army was numbered 54,400. Then comes the tribe of Zebulun, and Eliab, the son of Helon, shall be the leader of the children of Zebulun. And his army was numbered at 57,400. All who were numbered according to their armies of the forces with Judah, 186,400. These shall break camp first. So it's summing up just those three tribes because they all camp in a line. They're all following Judah. Then we get to verse 10. On the south side shall be the standard of the forces with Reuben, according to their armies. And the leader of the children of Reuben shall be Elizur, the son of Shadur. And his army was numbered at 46,500. Those who camp next to him shall be the tribe of Simeon. And the leader of the children of Simeon shall be Shalumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. Some of these are really fun. You just got to think about it for a minute. And his army was numbered at 59,300. Then comes the tribe of Gad, and the leader of the children of Gad shall be Eliasaph, the son of Reuel. And his army was numbered at 45,650. All who were numbered according to their armies of the forces with Reuben, 151,450. They shall be the second to break camp. Now, I did make these to scale. They're just not to scale of anything. Does that make any sense? The numbers we have are just the men in a certain age bracket, and you could spend a lot of time, and people have. You can go look it up. There are PhD level papers on, so therefore, how many other people are there? Because we have an accurate count of just the fighting men, so what's the full number? Lots of people have tried to puzzle it out using all kinds of metrics and methods. I went ahead and just used some really basic calculator math to take these numbers of the army and say, well, if the Levites camp around the tabernacle, which is an exactly 2x1 rectangle, maybe they would camp in a 2x1 rectangle. And then if all the other camps match the dimensions of the 2x1 rectangle and are sized according to the difference in size of men in their tribe, then it would basically shake out to these shapes. There's not a lot of decimal places, so it really is rough, but it just kind of gives you an idea of the layout, where things would be, what size things would be. And the background is actually the desert they walked around in for 40 years. So that's a nice little tidbit. Verse 17 says, "And the tabernacle of meeting shall move out with the camp of the Levites in the middle of the camps, as they camp. So they shall move out, everyone in his place, by their standards. On the west side shall be the standard of the forces with Ephraim, according to their armies. And the leader of the children of Ephraim shall be Elishama, the son of Ammihud. And his army was numbered at 40,500. Next to him comes the tribe of Manasseh, and the leader of the children of Manasseh shall be Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. And his army was numbered at 32,200. Then comes the tribe of Benjamin, and the leader of the children of Benjamin shall be Abidan, the son of Gideoni. And his army was numbered at 35,400. All who were numbered according to their armies of the forces with Ephraim, 108,100. They shall be the third to break camp." Last leg here. "And his army was numbered," I read that one. "Those who camp next to him," this is verse 27, "shall be the tribe of," did I jump again the wrong way? 25. My goodness. All right, verse 25. "The standard of the forces with Dan shall be on the north side according to their armies. And the leader of the children of Dan shall be Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. And his army was numbered at 62,700. Those who camp next to him shall be the tribe of Asher. And the leader of the children of Asher shall be Pagiel, the son of Ochran. And his army was numbered at 41,500. Then comes the tribe of Naphtali. And the leader of the children of Naphtali shall be Ahira, the son of Enan. And his army was numbered at 53,400. All who were numbered with the forces of Dan, 157,600. They shall break camp last with their standards. These are the ones who were numbered of the children of Israel by their fathers' houses. All who were numbered according to their armies of the forces were 603,550. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, just as the Lord commanded Moses. Thus the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they camped by their standards, and so they broke their camp, each one by his family, according to their fathers' houses." So this little section here, jump forward one more time. Doesn't mention how they lined up when they left. But if you jump over to chapter 10, it does. Actually, God gives a list. You shall walk like this. And he has them move out in a very particular order, with the Ark of the Covenant up in the front, various priests scattered on through, all the different tribes intermingled like that, and they walk in order, and then they camp in order, and then they walk in order, and then they camp in order. And you only move because the smoke picks up and moves. Every time they would stop and they'd set up the whole tabernacle, this giant plume of smoke would descend down on the tabernacle to show where God was. And when it was time to leave, you knew, because you'd wake up in the morning and the smoke was gone, and it was over there. And so everyone picks up, and runs off with the tabernacle all in pieces and the Ark of the Covenant out in front. And then they would, I don't know if chasing is the right word, but they'd be following the smoke around in the desert. And eventually they'd find a new spot to sit, smoke would stop moving, set up the camp again. So this was their normal rigmarole. The reason it's important to see it happen or claim to happen is because they don't keep it up very good. These little moments where you get the end of a chapter that says, "And thus they did all according to the way that God told Moses to do it," those are actually pretty rare. You don't get a lot of those. They're at the beginning. The further you go, the less there are. And these little moments, despite how tedious it is glorious because God hands them his list, which is very particular, and at the end, someone signs off on it. And you can just kind of imagine if it's Moses penning this. Now, I know Moses wrote this, but there's a chance Joshua penned it. And so I'm wondering which it is. Is it Moses standing there, chest bursting, just pride radiating off of him, and they did everything just the way I told them to do it? And Joshua's writing it down. They did everything just the way. Or is it Joshua watching his master, his teacher, the one he looks up to, finally getting respected, finally getting listened to after several false starts, And he's writing it going, and they did everything just as Moses told them to do. Either way, I kind of feel giddiness behind those words, even though everything before it is tedious. There's just an excitement. You can go back to the end of Exodus when they're building the tabernacle, and it's exactly the same thing. Beginning of Exodus, it's a lot of heeing and hawing, a lot of the people shouting, yes, we'll listen, and then they don't really listen. But when you get to the end of the book, and they've had discipline, and they've been asked, not told, do you want to enter into a commitment where you follow God? Do you want to enter into a commitment where God blesses you because of your obedience? And they say yes. Then you start getting this little phrase repeated all through the end of Exodus. Every time they pass a milestone, and they did everything according to what God told Moses to tell them to do. So it is kind of a big deal. And like I said, as we continue, they start to be more and more rare. In chapter 3, though, we're going to start to see some of the more symbolic nature of what all's going on. And here we go. This is the whole narrative that you'll find in Leviticus. It's 4 verses in Numbers. So there's not a lot of narrative in Leviticus. But here it is in fast form, just kind of moving us into a new focus. We're going to have this probably next time if we jump back into Numbers 4 next time. A focus on the Levites, a focus on the priesthood. Chapter 3, verse 1 says this, "Now these are the records of Aaron and Moses, when the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aaron, Nadab, the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the anointed priests, whom he consecrated to minister as priests." Think about that for a second. Most of the Bible movies we see that give us these visual looks at what a priest is, they're set in Jesus' time. There's not that many Bible movies that really go into the priesthood set in Moses' time. Usually Moses' movies are about Moses. They're not about the priests. You get into Jesus' time, then you get priests. But it's always like that sad, pale version of a priest. It's always the priest that's anti-Jesus. There's not a lot of good movies where like the priests are doing their job and they're worshiping God and they're leading the people. There's not a ton of that. But if you can just imagine going all the way back in time to a point where there was one high priest and 4 priests, and that was it. That was the whole roster. That's really different feeling from what you get, watching a book about Paul or watching a movie about Paul or watching a movie about Jesus. Totally different. It feels so institutional when you see it in the New Testament. It feels so cold and kind of the part of religion we don't like. And then you look at it in the Old Testament, and it's literally dad and his boys. They're the priesthood. That beautiful picture is marred immediately by the next verse, though. Verse 4 says, "Nadab and Abihu had died before the Lord when they offered profane fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children. So Eleazar and Ithamar ministered as priests in the presence of Aaron, their father." And then there was the high priest, and then there was 2 priests. That's quickly what happened. This was basically day 1, too. They went through basic training. They had like a week of training. And then day 1 of people come, priests sacrifice, let's do all these things God's taught us how to do. That was the day Nadab and Abihu messed up. It was the first real day on the job. They just finished being consecrated. And immediately they messed it up. And what did they do? What did they get wrong? What was the mess up? It's to think that you know God well enough to improv, to not check with him. This is something we can all become guilty of very easily. I have experience with God. I know things about God. I've lived life with God. I'm good. I know how he would want me to do this. I don't need to pray. I don't need to talk to him. I don't need to consult his word. I'll just go for it. Just kind of wing it. They heard from God, from Moses, God likes incense. That's not false. It's not like they went and found, incense on the side of the road. They were just told specifically, do this today. And they're like, hey, should we throw some incense in too? But they didn't ask that. They just thought that, and then they did it. That was it. That was the whole blunder. Not that far from the straight and narrow. but it wasn't the straight and narrow. And they were meant to be the representative of God to the people and the people to God. And that can sound so symbolic and so spiritual. It feels almost kind of like it doesn't mean anything. But it's incredibly literal. That if you're representing the people to God, then that means you actually have to physically take on whatever the people have and bring it to God. If they have cares, you bring it to God. If they have worries, bring it to God. If they have sin, bring it to God. If they have a sacrifice, they have something to put in their place, you bring it to God. So as the priest, you are bringing everything the people have to God. But then, second part of the job, you're supposed to bring everything God has back to the people. You're supposed to bring blessing to the people. You're supposed to bring a word of insight to the people. You're supposed to bring His wisdom to the people. And what happens when you improv in that scenario? You're lying. You're lying. Either you improv what God was saying and you told the people something God never said, or you improv what the people were offering God. And it didn't come from the people. It was never theirs. It's not something they wanted to give Him. You lied. One direction or the other, or both. And so God says, nope, I explained this very clearly. If you mess this up, you're dead. So you're dead. And then there was 2 priests and a high priest. Verse 5 says this, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. So remember, only the 3 priests total now, but there's this whole tribe of Levi. What are they to do? Well, they're presented to Aaron. And they shall attend to his needs and the needs of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of meeting, to do the work of the tabernacle. Also, they shall attend to all the furnishings of the tabernacle of meeting and to the needs of the children of Israel, to do the work of the tabernacle. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron and his sons. They are given entirely to him from among the children of Israel. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall attend to their priesthood, but the outsider who comes near shall be put to death. We keep seeing death as the consequence here. And really, it seems harsh until you understand what all of this is. This is all meant to be the way you can have true access to God. True access. To have that, though, to walk into His presence, to speak to Him, to worship Him directly, that requires you to be holy. And so God didn't have to scratch His head or anything, but He just handed them the plans. He said, okay, here you go. Here's how you make someone holy. And it required an entire nation to support one tribe that was fully dedicated to the workings of one place, so they could just keep this one high priest holy enough so that once a year he could walk in to God's room. This whole thing, one big country, keeping a tribe going, keeping the priesthood going, keeping the high priest going, so that he could walk in holy. And he could just enter into God's throne room. And the idea was that to do otherwise, to try and steal access to God, was impossible. Death isn't even a punishment in this scenario. It's a consequence. Can you imagine if someone somehow found like the little secret door in some big institutional building and it was just a back door into heaven? You could physically cross the threshold, but nothing good would come of it. If you go walking into God's presence and you are not holy first, there's consequences. You can't just breeze on in. So God isn't killing people. He's saying, stay away. Don't come over here. This will kill you. Let's put up a fence. Let's plate it gold so no one wonders, gee, what fence is that? Is that Rick's fence or Jerry's fence? I'll just peek through. No, it's the gold-plated fence. That's clearly a special fence. No mistakes about that one. Keep going in chapter 3. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, is verse 11, saying, now, behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the children of Israel. Therefore, the Levites shall be mine. because all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord. So here we have the first mention of a beautiful symbolic language that God uses again and again in the New Testament. And this is one of the first times it's really spelled out. Now, the event that he talks about is back in Exodus. But even that day, it's not spelled out like it is here. He uses different language. He gives it different details. And he tells us, as we keep going, and we start to see the word redemption pop up more than once, and we see a phrase in English, instead of, so in the place of, we see these concepts combined, and then he talks about purchasing something, and it's the lives of people. You get all this mixed together, and you start to see that the idea of redemption, of saving something, is getting it back from where it was. And when you do that, it's yours. When you save something from its fate, now it's yours. You can't go rescue a cat from a river washing downstream and then just set it on the bank of the river and say, have a nice day. You got to take that thing home. You got to help it out. It's your responsibility now. You just took it out of a death-related incident. You can't just leave it out in the rain. God's gone further than that, though. And he's actually taken sinners and said, we're going to put that aside. He's taken a wayward nation and said, I'm going to lead you. He's taken people who deserved punishment and given them blessing. And there's an actual price to be paid for all this. That's something that I feel is lost on a lot of people today, that there is a price associated with a gift. Somehow if God's doing the giving, well, then he's infinite, he doesn't have to pay anything, right? But that's not what he says. He says redemption is taking place because I paid for it. So now he's asking for something in return. He says that the firstborn are to be dedicated to him, but since that's not reasonable on the one hand, and it's also not going to actually work, he can just foresee that. He says, we're going to do something different. We're going to take the Levites as the payment. They'll be dedicated. So he doesn't want payment like, be my slaves. He doesn't want payment like, you're all dead now. I mean, you could try and turn that one over in your head, that sacrifices are usually killed, so if the Levites are the payment, then you just kill all the Levites. But that's not what he says. He says, they're going to be dedicated to me. And the thing he dedicates them to, this is so beautiful, is connecting the rest of the country back to him. So think about that for a second. He's demanding that someone be dedicated to him and the work he has for them. And then the work he puts them to is connecting everyone back to him. Does that start to make sense? It's so unselfish. And yet, if you go surface deep, it looks selfish. He's demanding payment. Well, they were already saved. Does he really still need to be paid? That's not the point. He's going to do something good for the Israelites through this transaction, through this payment. Keep going, though. Verse 14. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, number the children of Levi by their fathers' houses, by their families. You shall number every male from a month old and above. So previously when we did our census, we were doing military-style census, only fighting age. You know, there was a lower cap, there's an upper cap, all that. But now we're talking about any living male, every person in the tribe of Levi. So anyone over a month. Why over a month? Well, before a month, there was questions about whether or not they'd survive. But also, as you keep looking into God's practices that he gives the Israelites to follow, at a month, something changed. They were named, they were dedicated. There was a spiritual commitment in that kid's life, even at 1 month old. Prior to that, they were a squishy blob that mom held. That was it. There wasn't much more going on than that. So 1 month old and above. Then, verse 16, so Moses numbered them according to the word of the Lord, as he was commanded. These were the sons of Levi by their names, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Those are all the way back up at the top of the family tree. And these are the names of the sons of Gershon by their families, Libni and Shimei. The sons of Kohath were by their families Amram, Issachar, Hebron, and Uzziel. And the sons of Merari by their families Mali and Mushi. These are the families of Levites by their fathers' houses. In case you're wondering, because they didn't mention it, where is the priesthood from? It's from Kohath. So not all Kohathites can be priests, but all the priests are Kohathites. So Moses, also a Kohathite. Verse 20, where did I leave off? Verse 21, from Gershon came the family of the Libnites and the family of the Shemites, and these were the families of the Gershonites. Those who were numbered according to the number of all the males from a month old and above, of those who were numbered, there were 7,500. The families of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle westward, and the leader of the father's house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, the son of Lael. The duties of the children of Gershon in the tabernacle of meeting included the tabernacle, the tent with its covering, the screen for the door of the tabernacle of meeting, the screen for the door of the court, the hangings of the court, which are around the tabernacle and the altar, and their cords, according to all the work relating to them. So they're in charge of sheets and ropes, mostly. Verse 27, from Kohath came the family of the Amramites. The family of the Izharites, the family of the Hebronites, and the family of the Uzzielites. These were the families of the Kohathites. According to the number of all the males from a month old and above, there were 8,600 keeping charge of the sanctuary. The families of the children of Kohath were to camp on the south side of the tabernacle. And the leader of the father's house of the families of the Kohathites was Eliasaphan, the son of Uzziel. Their duty included the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, the utensils of the sanctuary with which they ministered, the screen, and all the work relating to them. And Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, was to be chief over the leaders of the Levites, with oversight of those who kept charge of the sanctuary. From Merari came the family of the Malites and the family of the Mushites. These were the families of Merari. And those who were numbered according to the number of all the males from a month old to and above were 6,200. The leaders of the father's house of the families of Merari were Zuriel, the son of Abihail. These were to camp on the north side of the tabernacle. And the appointed duty of the children of Merari included the boards of the tabernacle, its bars, its pillars, its sockets, its utensils, all the work relating to them, and the pillars of the court all around, with their sockets, their pegs, and their cords. Moreover, those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east before the tabernacle of meeting were Moses, Aaron, and his sons. So the priests, keeping charge of the sanctuary to meet the needs of the children of Israel. But the outsider who came near was to be put to death. All who were numbered of the Levites whom Moses and Aaron numbered at the commandment of the Lord by their families, all the males from a month old and above were 22,000. So we have these different jobs, these different groups, and if you go, I think, 3 more ahead, you'll see they're all split up around the tabernacle, and Moses and Aaron end up on the east side, which is where the door of the tabernacle is. So to get to the tabernacle, you'd have to go past all the priests' tents. So if you're bringing a sacrifice, you're going to bump into some priests on the way. If you're doing anything wrong, they get a chance to stop you before you make it there. Verse 40, then the Lord said to Moses, number all the firstborn males of the children of Israel from a month old and above. So this is recounting people we counted in chapters 1 and 2, but we're not counting military might this time. We're counting any firstborn male. These are the people that God said he has a claim on. He already bought them with the Passover. That was something he did. And so he's owed the firstborn males of the whole nation of Israel. So he wants them numbered from a month old and above, and take the number of their names. And you shall take the Levites for me, I am the Lord, instead of the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites instead of all the firstborn among the livestock of the children of Israel. So Moses numbered all the firstborn among the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded him, and all the firstborn males according to the number of names from a month old and above of those who were numbered of them were 22,273. Did you guys remember the number from like a second ago? It's is 22,000 even. And now the number of the firstborn, 22,273. Those are weirdly close. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of all Israel, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock. The Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. And for the redemption of the 273 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, who are more than the number of the Levites, you shall take 5 shekels for each one individually. You shall take them in the currency of the shekel of the sanctuary, the shekel of 20 gerahs. It's about $45 worth of silver. And you shall give the money with which the excess number of them is redeemed to Aaron and his sons. So Moses took the redemption money from those who were over and above those who were redeemed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the children of Israel, he took the money, 1,365 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moses gave their redemption money to Aaron and his sons, according to the word of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. So this last little section here really shows that God doesn't change, and if we think he changes, then we don't understand him. Because right here, he is making an exchange of people dedicated for his purposes for people who just do what their normal job is. They just live their life. And in that exchange, he wants it to be exact. And yet, he still has grace. He says, oh, well, you don't have any more people to give. You don't have any more Levites to dedicate to my purposes, so you can't pay in full. You're 273 Levites short. I mean, you could wait a few years, and maybe you could get the population up real quick, and there we go. But the other side of the population is going to grow too. So it's not really going to shake out. So what does he say? He says, you know what? I'll make it easy. $45 per person, we'll call it even. That's a pretty fair bargain. We're talking about a lifelong job assignment versus $45. That's pretty good. Now this goes on. This practice of the firstborn is owed to God goes on and on and on. This never ended. This wasn't a one-time thing. For the rest of the nation of Israel's history, they were to dedicate the firstborn of every family to his service. And since most of them weren't eligible, most of them weren't Levites, you would go and you would bring your child to the temple and you would pay. You'd pay the money instead. That was an ongoing practice. But what God does here, what he's setting up, this redemption of exchange, where I take something and I save something, by switching places, by putting something in the place of something. This concept is so underdeveloped here, he's just utilizing it. It's just another tool in God's box of favorite tools. Yeah, just take something that is okay, and we'll switch it, and now that thing is saved, and okay, great. We've swapped places now, and now it's safe. That was the idea. Now, through this whole system, you as any member of Israel could walk to the tabernacle with your sacrifice in hand, and you could bring it all the way up to the gate. And you could worship God by sacrifice. If you haven't gone through Leviticus, you may know I like to pick weird and strange books to study. Go through Leviticus. I've got a whole study up online. You can go through the whole thing. We did like 3, 4, sometimes 5 chapters a night. It was great. But in that study, we see that there's not just one kind of sacrifice. It's not just take a bull, kill a bull. There was like a lot of different kinds of sacrifice. They all had different meanings. And there were sacrifices where literally you'd go to God and you'd say thank you with the animal, and then you just go home, barbecue it, and invite all your friends. And that was a legitimate sacrifice that God asked for. He requested. So there's a lot of different kinds. And God's opening the door for anyone in Israel to come to him, and he's doing it through this redemption of the switcheroo. And then you saw it tonight. I think most of you noticed that like the tents all line up in a big giant cross. I mean, he's hiding things in here not so you won't find them. He's hiding things in here so you will find them. He's been using redemption. He's been using the put someone in the place of technique since the earliest days. And then when Jesus gets on the scene and he says the Son of Man has to suffer and die, he's going to be betrayed. He's telling his disciples all these things about his death on the cross. They mostly miss it. Why? Well, because they like those chapters about the army count. They weren't paying attention when they got to chapter 3. They wanted the king to come in and say, all right, count the men, let's go to war. But God was like, wait. First, before you can all come in, before you can all join the army, you have to be sanctified. Who are you going to stick in your place? Who are you going to use as your redemption? What do you have to offer? And pretty much every person on the planet would just have to shrug and go, I don't really have anything worthy of that. I don't have anything I can offer you. I don't have a Levite who's willing to serve in my place for the rest of his life just so that I could walk in and bring you a present. I don't have that. And that's what Jesus did. He said, okay, you need a whole life? I'll give you a whole life. How's the count measure up when it's someone who's perfect? How's the count measure up when it's not just a human, but it's God too? The count measures up so that you can, instead of having 22,000 on this side and 22,273 on that side, you can have one on this side. And you can just keep adding more people onto the other side. And the one never runs out. That is the beauty of the redemption of Jesus Christ. He does the switcheroo one time, stands in our place one time, takes what we deserve one time, gives his whole life that one time. And suddenly, as many people as will accept him can enter in. As many people as will accept him can be made holy. That's one of the most amazing things, is he doesn't just wipe out your sin, clear your debt. He puts you in the green. He puts righteousness in your account. The Bible says that he clothes you in his righteousness. That is the amazing truth of what Jesus did when he redeemed us, stood in our place, in our stead. Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you that you went and suffered instead of us. That you took the punishment for that sin instead of us. That you gave your whole life instead of us. And Lord, you paved the way. You opened the gate so that now we could enter in. We could walk into God's throne room. And instead of a whole nation keeping a whole tribe going, keeping a whole priesthood going, keeping the high priest going so that he could walk in once, Lord, you did it all backwards. Thank you, God, that your sacrifice was so great, so powerful, that you got to do it the other way around. One person paying one time. And all people can join your family now for all time. Thank you, God. Your plan is amazing, and you've been hinting at it from the start. Thank you, God, that you've opened your word to us. You've shown us your grace. You've shown us that welcoming love. And so we ask, Lord, tonight, would you show us one more thing? How to have that heart for the people in the world around us. Lord, you've asked us to join you as priests, but as ambassadors. Not like Moses and Aaron standing at the gate, watching everyone and saying, wait, not like that. You're doing it wrong. But Lord, you've asked us to be ambassadors, going out and inviting people in. You've already done it all right. And now we just need to share that good news, that you've finished the work. Help us, Lord. Help us to see people the way you do. The hurt, the lost, the lonely, the suffering. And to see their need for you. Just break our heart, Lord, like I know it breaks yours. Draw us to those people this week, Lord. Give us chances, moments, where we can speak your love and your truth to them. Give us the right words to say in that moment so they can see you already died in their place. You already paid the price for them. You showed your love by doing all the work first. Lord, it's so beautiful. Help us to see that beauty and then to communicate that beauty with everyone around us. May they see it just radiating out of us. A life that follows after you. With our heads bowed and our eyes closed, if there's anyone here today that wants to take a hold of that good news, you want to say to Jesus, forgive me. You want to say to Jesus, wipe my sins away. Anyone tonight? You can just raise up your hand and say, that's me. I want that. All right, well, Lord, bless these Christians. Bless them mightily this week. They each have so much going on, so many cares, so many struggles, Lord, but you know them all. So go with them, help them to be what the world needs right now. Help them to serve you and to minister the people around them. We ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen.